Before start this video, please subscribe my channel and click on bell icon. Thanks.
Sometimes known as the Golden Age of Sail, it was a period from the 15th to the 17th century. European vessels embarked on global expeditions in pursuit of treasure. Plus, plenty were complicit in the subjugation and enslavement of indigenous peoples. It was brutal all around. So today, we take a look at 10 ways life at sea really sucked during the Age of Discovery. Historians may know it today as a golden age of exploration and adventure. But the truth is that era was remarkably difficult for the average sailor. Here's why. Related, 10 punishments of the Royal Navy during the Age of Sail. 10 Life without GPS. How did the great explorers avoid getting lost at sea? That credit goes to Viking leader Leif Eriksson. He arrived in modern-day Newfoundland half a millennium earlier. Nevertheless, Columbus's journey wasn't without its own misadventures. Armed with primitive navigation tools and limited knowledge of astronomy and trade winds, Columbus and his crew found themselves profoundly lost. Their voyage spanned an astonishing 4,000 miles of uncharted water. It was a testament to the audacity and risks of early exploration. It was also nearly a colossal mistake that ended in sure disappearance. After a grueling 36 days at sea, Columbus finally set eyes on land. He figured it was India. Little did he know that he had stumbled upon the Bahamas. The native people he encountered there were henceforth forever mistakenly labeled Indians. This misnomer would later extend to encompass all indigenous populations of the Americas. So, while Columbus may not have been the first to reach America, his inadvertent encounter with the New World would forever alter the course of history. And he did it all without GPS. Would you have had the patience to sit on a boat for more than a month without knowing exactly where you were going or how to get there? 9. The terror of scurvy. How pirates battled scurvy. Pirate food. Eating fresh fruits and vegetables is a lesson ingrained in us from an early age. But imagine being a sailor in the past, where life at sea meant bidding farewell to these essential dietary staples. This led to a fatal condition known as scurvy, aptly nicknamed the scourge of the seas. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, scurvy claimed the lives of over 2 million sailors. The consequences of scurvy were nothing short of horrifying. Today, think of them almost akin to grotesque scenes out of The Walking Dead. Scurvy wreaked havoc on the body, both internally and externally. Arteries and capillaries decayed gradually, leading to a slow disintegration. The afflicted sailors suffered from painful ulcers, terrifying seizures, and breaks in their skin. It often leads to the unpleasant experience of projectile vomiting. But with no other viable options for crossing the Atlantic, sailors back then had no choice but to endure the hardships that came with it. Countless old Spanish galleons filled with valuable treasures sunk to the bottom because of unpredictable bad weather. Without radar or weather maps back then, nobody really knew when terrible storms would strike. Every sailor and every ship put their lives in the hands of the sea each time they went out on a voyage. More often than anyone cared to admit, they never came home. Still today, modern-day shipwreck hunters continue to discover gold off the coast of Florida. The most notable haul originated from the famous 1715 treasure fleet that was en route from the New World to Spain. On July 31, 1715, a powerful hurricane unleashed its wrath. It sent 11 of the fleet's 12 ships to their watery graves. Sadly, this disaster claimed the lives of 500 sailors. That practice was known as impressment. This ugly practice goes all the way back to Elizabethan times. Then, press gangs were employed to round up vagrants in English towns. The men were forced to fill the crews of ships, whether they wanted to or not. While the minimum age for joining the Navy was 16, some boys as young as 7 or 8 were pressed into service as powder monkeys. These youngsters played a crucial role in a hazardous job. They ferried gunpowder from the ship's hold to the artillery weapons. It even took hold on the west coast of the United States. Portland, Oregon, eventually became the world's Shanghaiing capital. The city boasted an intricate network of underground tunnels situated below bars and cheap lodgings. These captives were subjected to unimaginable hardships over the next 4 centuries. European powers built colonies in the Americas on the backs of this forced labor. The journey of enslaved Africans began with their transportation on slave ships. Deep down in the ships, they were confined in shackles. The vessels were plagued with bacteria and emitted a putrid stench. When they embarked, the treacherous voyages lasted up to 2 months. Known as the Middle Passage, this perilous journey across the Atlantic Ocean claimed countless lives. Harsh weather, inhumane conditions, and rampant diseases were consistent killers. Some desperate captives even chose to jump overboard. For those men and women, death was better than the horrific voyage. The establishment of massive plantations in the New World necessitated an extensive workforce. Thus, it perpetuated the relentless cycle of the transatlantic slave trade. Regardless of how they felt about it, they were forced to take part. It was no place for a conscience. Thus, even today, the Middle Passage remains a dark mark on human history. And many Americans who celebrate it often think back to the first ever Thanksgiving too. Yes, it originated as part of the Pilgrims' first harvest in Plymouth, Massachusetts, in the 17th century. Moreover, the loss of tribal elders meant the loss of knowledge and traditions. That continues to have devastating consequences for future generations that persist now. And it all started with groups of pilgrims and other sailors riding high into the New World to conquer and dominate. As it turns out, native peoples didn't always care for outsiders showing up and rudely trampling everything. Who knew? Ferdinand Magellan, despite his groundbreaking circumnavigation, met his demise in the Philippines. Struck by a bamboo spear, he never completed his momentous voyage. Similarly, Juan Ponce de Leon's quest for the mythical Fountain of Youth in Florida was cut short by a poisoned arrow from the Calusa warriors in 1521. Sadly, the captain's audacious plan proved fatal. He took his last breath in paradise and then became the focus of centuries of notorious stories about it. Ultimately, these tales serve as a somber reminder that exploration comes with significant risks. While these explorers left an indelible mark on history, their encounters with hostile natives sealed their tragic destinies. They also served as important lessons for other sailors of the time, too. Along with great adventure, exploring the high seas and going off into the unknown came with great risk. There was plenty of indirect contact through contaminated food storage too. Moreover, rats carried fleas that acted as disease vectors. Those tiny bugs spread even more dangerous illnesses like bubonic plague, typhus, and spotted fever. Above all, rats were one of the most annoying daily occurrences that made up the sailors' lifestyle. They were relentless in what they did on board ships, and it seemed like they got into every little nook and cranny. Things got so bad, in fact, that vessels eventually started carrying cats along for rides just so that they could hunt and eat rats as they pleased. In turn, that became a decent solution to a major pest problem. These conditions sometimes pushed sailors to the brink, resulting in mutiny, as was the case with the famous explorer Henry Hudson. Many other explorers and ship captains also learned this lesson the hard way: take punishment too far, and sailors will rebel in a murderous rage. Punishments were particularly harsh on board merchant ships. Flogging was the most common form of discipline. In the most extreme cases, sailors faced the grim fate of being hanged to death. Mutiny was a hangable offense, often leading to immense suffering for those caught conspiring. The hardships and punishments endured by sailors during this era were truly grueling. Soon, they became the stuff of legend. Even today, we regard them as draconian, difficult, and dangerous. But the habit has been around for a long, long time. Interestingly, this harmful practice was introduced to the world during the Age of Exploration. However, he soon discovered their value in trade. Other European explorers learned of their importance, too, and many soon began cultivating the highly addictive and lucrative cash crop. Before long, smoking became a widespread habit on ships and back in Europe. Cigarettes, cigars, and pipe tobacco gained popularity worldwide. On board ships, sailors smoked like proverbial chimneys, as well. Thanks for watching. Credits to listverse.com. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.